Riley, the Deputy Chief of Compensation for the United States Army. Here to talk to you about the new jump pay policy. Telling some people earlier today, so 35 years ago when I actually sat in these seats myself as a private, right, from the 2nd Brigade. Where's my 2nd Brigade guys at? So, right? So I was a Falcon like my entire career, like 13 years in the 82nd. So we're going to talk about this jump pay, see if we can, take old policy, old rules, show you the new policy, and show you how it's going to make a difference, right? So I think everybody knows, even when I was a private, I could never understand why I could jump on the 1st of a month and on the 30th of a month, and only one jump would count. But yet I could jump on the 30th of a month and the 1st of the next month, and they both counted. Right? It just never computed in my mind. I thought, well, that's some of the dumbest Army policy that I've ever heard in my life. But that's just the way it was. So I said, someday I'm going to change that. So 34 years it took me, guys. Sorry. But we did get it changed for you, all right? So like I said, the bottom line was that there was too many people losing jump pay, right? I was looking at a lot of these jump logs, and these guys were jumping 5, 6, 7 times a year, but still losing jump pay, right? I said, but then we also have a Rule 3 policy that allows them to jump 4 times in a year and still keep the pay. So why are these guys losing jump pay now? It all came down to timing, when they jumped. Okay? Then we started digging into it. Then I found out that the rules that you guys were jumping on were from 1950. So I guess no one decided to look at them for, a long time. But again, you all jump differently than we jumped when I was here, right? A lot of deployment. So there needs to be a contemporary policy. So the whole thought process was, let's just use jump Rule 3 only. Just let you guys take care of it, right? Jump 4 times a year, because I believe that it's commanders' jobs that do proficiency, right? Performance, just jump, and then we'll pay you for jumping. That's it. I mean, there's actually countries out there that jump, and you know how many times they jump a year? There's actually one country out there that says you can jump once every 2 years, and you're still considered proficient in their eyes, right? So what we were trying to do is just give you a better policy. You remember the old stuff, right? Jump in January, jump in June, jump July, jump December, cover for the whole year. Well, we did is said, if you literally move that jump one day, same amount of days, both scenarios, just split it one day. The guy now loses 4 months of jump pay, right? Because you couldn't jump twice in the same month for pay. I personally believe that was an interpretation issue, because when I would read the jump rules, I didn't really see it ever say you can only jump once a month for pay, but it said something about every time you jump, it starts a new 3-month consecutive period. So someone just didn't think that you could start another month within a month. I didn't believe so, so again, we went back to OSD, see if we can change. So here's the big thing that I want to tell everybody in here. Don't overthink it. All right? I think the biggest problem that we've had with jump pay this past year is that you just don't trust us at the Pentagon. Right? You're like, this is too good to be true. There's a catch. This is too easy. Okay? But I'm telling you, it really is. It is as simple as I tell people. If you have a soldier today that is constantly losing jump pay, you got to go back and do waivers and things on him to cover him for jump pay. Let me tell you what you need to do. Take him off jump status, because he doesn't really want to jump. Because it's nearly impossible to lose jump pay nowadays. It is really nearly impossible, right? The thing's designed to be very flexible, not rigid. So don't look for a reason to take pay from a guy. Look for the reason to actually ensure the guy continues to get paid. Good to go? Right? Basic policy, right? the rules. I'm trying to get rid of that term, the rules. Tired of hearing the rules. Okay, because it's not a rule, it's a policy. In fact, when I just went back and worked on the DoD FMR chapter 24, I got rid of the tables. I got rid of, table 24-3, rule 1, 2, 3. That stuff's gone out of the DoD FMR. All you're going to see now is just a policy. All right? So what is the rule? What's the policy? It's simple. Simply jump 4 times a year, but when do you have to jump? Once every 3 months, right? That didn't change from the last set of rules, right? Jump once every 3 months. That is what the actual policy is. You jump once every 3 months. But there's exceptions to the rule. It says now, if it's beyond the soldier's control, the soldier can jump twice in a 6-month period to include twice during the same month, and it's still good for pay. It'll cover him for a 6-month period, right? It's pretty simple. I've actually had people ask me, can they jump twice in the same day? The answer is yes, as long as that same day is in the same month. All right? That was a joke. So anyways, so needless to say, yes, twice in the same month. I don't care, same day, same hour. You just got to jump twice in that same month. June, July, whatever. All right? Now, beyond the soldier's control, you have not believed how many phone calls I have received about beyond the soldier's control. People are asking me, can I get a list? No, you can't. Because I don't want to formalize it. I want you all to make a decision on what's beyond the soldier's control. If the soldier is not manifested or is manifested, does the soldier have control over that? He does not. So is that beyond the soldier's control that the S3 or the ops did not put him on a manifest? Yep. So it could be emergency leave. It could be, you name it. There's all different things. But the biggest, if you don't manifest him, it's beyond his control because he just can't force you to manifest it. So that's where I say it's a thinking man's game. So if you have a soldier that jumped twice in January, right? And you know that he should jump again April, May, June time frame, right? But you got limited slots to jump somebody. Now you know you have to jump somebody else. Are you going to jump the guy that's already got 2 jumps, or are you going to jump the person who needs a jump? You're going to jump the guy who needs a jump. So now that's beyond that other soldier's control. So now he can use those 2 jumps in January to cover him for a 6-month period. Good to go? All right. So the next one, non-availability of aircraft and equipment, inclement weather, military education lesson 179. So, you remember it used to say what? It didn't say non-availability of equipment, but it used to say what?
Scratches to airport.
Lack of equipment, right? So, or absence of equipment, that's what it said. Absence of equipment and aircraft. So we used to get calls all the time and say, well, they're down at Poe. I get that, but do you have access to them? Can you fly them across the drop zone right now? You got drop time? No. So they're absent. But I fought people tooth and nail about that word, absence. Because they were literally there. They weren't absent, but they were there. You didn't have access to them. So we changed the word to non-available. So if it's weather, which we actually added that too, because we wanted people to understand that if you can't jump because of weather, there's a reason that you can take care of, right? The guy went to a school. Why less than 179 days?
You're good bar at 180.
Well, not really. Anything more than that is probably a PCS assignment. That's why we said 179 days. Good to go? But it is. Yeah, bar works there too. So 05 made waves 1 jump a year. Now these are individual waivers, right? Because we want those to end up in the guy's jump log file so that later on you can say, hey, this guy was given a waiver for this specific reason. It could have been weather, right? So, operationally deployed. That used to be what? combat operations, right? Now it's operationally deployed. So if I pick up a unit and send it to Korea on one of those Korea rotational forces, or I send him to Atlantic Resolve, is he operationally deployed? Yes, he is. So the jump requirement is waived during that period. Now, did I give you a list of what operationally deployed means? Nope. Am I? Nope. Who gets to make that decision? Your one star gets to make that decision. If he says that you are operationally deployed, you are operationally deployed. Good to go?
Got a question for you, sir, before we move on to the next one. Just to be clear, so the whole basis of what we're saying right here is now we only have to jump 4 times a year, period. If everything goes bad, we can't get all at the same time. And the 05 waiver is simply saying he can waive one of those 4 requirements down to 3. So in the event we don't have this availability of aircraft, weather, whatever it is, he could jump 3 times a year to still keep paying.
I can show you how you can jump twice a year.
Okay. I'll just make sure that's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Okay.
So the bottom line is once every 3 months, just like we've always done in the past, right? That's what the expectation is, right? But we know that you guys jump differently than that now, right? You do rehearsals and things. Yeah, we got an operation coming up, right? Got an evaluation, so we're going to do a practice, a rehearsal before we actually do the real thing. So a guy may get 2-3 jumps in a month, right? And then you may go on support cycle or some crap like that later on, right? Then you don't get an opportunity to jump. Now I got to go to school, right? And now my wife's pregnant. I mean, there's all kind of life happens stuff that gets in your way, right? So again, it's jump there, jump there, jump there. It's about how do I cover, not how do I take away pay. Okay? Does that answer your question, Soren?
Okay, because I had a follow on to that as well. Then
All right.
how does that follow when we go to finance and the guy goes to ETS and he's only got 2 jumps now and they're strictly looking at like the old rule and they're like, no, you owe us $450 for 3 months in between. This guy jumped 5 times within a 3-month period there, and he's getting out now.
It's easy to fix it. You know how?
How's that?
Look me up on the global, send it to me, and I will have it fixed.
So is there like you're saying you need a memo format saying, hey, we're now under a Rule 3 style thing?
No, what you do is it says this jump was waived or this was operationally deployed. When you put it in the log, just say period covered by waiver, you know what I'm saying, dated such and such that you have. That's why I said the waivers for 05 waivers are individual waivers.
Okay.
I'm waiving this guy's specific requirement, right? Because when we get to this stuff about beyond, you know, the soldier's control, things of that nature, who also gets to make that determination? Commander, right? Commanders can literally say, look, don't BS me. I knew, or I know for a fact you were trying to get out of a jump. So that doesn't get to apply to you, right? Again, what we were trying to do again is put the commander back in the driver's seat too, allow him to control his formations and make decisions about his formation. Because you are the ones that ultimately know if a guy is BSing you or not, right? About jumping or not. So again, it's about putting you all back in control. Hey, JD. Roger.
Hey, so on that finance piece, right? I came from USASOC where they were able to understand this real quick. Whereas when I got over here, day one, and Captain Woods and I talked about it, you know, we're still stuck in the jump rules and, oh, I'm a ×3 or whatever, right? Finance is already tracking this. It's been going on for over a year. So I have guys that have gone to finance, PCS, ETS, whatever, and they're like, only have those 2 jumps. And finance is like, oh, that covers you from here to here, you're good. You know, you don't owe us money. Because even though the 2 jumps happened maybe simultaneously, they covered them for 6 months. Does that make sense? So finance has got it. It's us. We're screwing guys because we're putting, you know, in their jump logs, oh, did not take away pay, and we're submitting it. But finance is catching them 9 times out of 10 and like, no, we're not taking pay because this has been updated. JD's pushed it down. The finance offices have it. But we got to get it out of our minds here, right? What really is credible for pay and what's not, and how we can cover our paratroopers, you know, because ultimately, like he said, we're not in the business of taking their money, right? I mean, our support soldiers, paratroopers, they don't get on every jump. Operationally, we're going to put our line guys. So, you know, that's not at the soldier's fault if he doesn't get manifested. This is one of those weird organizations where you get told if you're jumping, not who needs to jump. Me, Sergeant, you know, like, so take that into consideration. If we're not manifesting, guys, We're the reason why they're not jumping. It's not Johnny Paratrooper. Does that make sense? Right? So this is easy, but we just got to change our mindset here because we're still stuck in, oh, got to take that guy's money and jump in 3 months. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, you got a question back there?
Is there any specific guidance on the 05 waiver and what that year represents? For example, if an 05 covers month 10, 11, 12, right? And then month 1, 2, and 3 of the following year, that would be 2 consecutive 3-month periods.
I'll show you how you do that. All right? And I do have a slide on it, so I'm
Okay.
going to show. We're going to get to
I'll
that.
wait for that one.
But that's a good question.
I got a question about the schools. What if they have like back-to-back schools, then all total would be more than 179 days?
Then again, we got to look at other ways to potentially. So he does it more than 179 days, so they do the waiver, right? So now what we have is I jump him. I didn't have to pull him off jump status because he comes back, right? Now maybe I'm going to jump him twice at the end of a 6-month period, right? To get him across, right? There's ways of, say, he's never had a waiver before. Maybe I can give him a second waiver in the next 12-month period to cover for another period. But again, I'm going to show you how to do that. Remember I said this is a thinking man's game. It's how can I cover, right? I'm telling you, even from when I was a young private, if you give a private a ball bearing, he could break it, right? Because they're going to always outthink you on the policy. Anytime you put a little loophole in this thing, they're going to outthink you on it. And what I have done here is given you the opportunity to think and cover people. That's all this is. Don't be rigid, be flexible, all right? Because there's absolutely a way around everything. Pregnancies, right? Jump her twice in the first 2 months before she gets pregnant. Covers her for 6 months. You can jump her twice at the end of the year, right? Throw a waiver in there. I'm telling you could cover. I mean, she could be pregnant, out on, parental leave, the whole thing. And she'd be covered for jump pay the entire time if you do it correctly. All right? So, we all know that there's essentially 3 things here, right? 3-month jump period. Jump once every 3 months to pay, right? Then we talked about the waiver period, not really a waiver, but an exception says twice every 6 months. And these are the actual things. Attendance military education less than 109 state, inclement weather, commanding officer going to waive that jump requirement. He's waiving a jump. He's not waiving a month. All right? He's waiving a jump. He's not waiving a month or a 3-month period. He's waiving a jump. So it's wherever you can put that jump to cover that 3-month period and then start forward to that again. There's going to be those absolute rare cases out there that you're going to have to literally do one jump, you know what I'm saying, to cover 1 month. But it should be very rare. I've tried multiple scenarios trying to get it to work, and I can get it to work in about one situation and one situation only. All right? And then we talked about being operations deployed. Real no definition. So what does that say? Right? The guy can literally jump January, February, March, twice in July, right? Jump in January again, need an 05 waiver, covers me October, November, December. Right? What do I got to do if I get a waiver though?
Annotated on the jump log.
Bar.
If I do an 05 waiver, what do I got to do? What's it
Maintain
say?
airborne proficiency.
Sustained airborne training.
That was intentional. All right? If you do an 07 waiver, you got to do what? Bar. If you do an 05 waiver, you just got to do pre-jump training. Because what we were trying to do, look at Cheetah out there like, yeah, it's absolutely not correct. Right? You're looking at me like, you're so crazy. No, I wrote it that way specifically because of inclement weather. When do we normally get blowed off at the airfield? Right before station time, right? Hey, everyone's waiting each other out, right?
In the
I ain't paying for this thing. So you literally got everybody on board the aircraft, and the Air Force finally says, all right, you win. Offload them. We're not jumping, right? So Division didn't pay for it, Air Force paid for it because we were playing that game of chicken, right? But what have you already done?
Sustained airborne
You've
training.
already done sustained airborne training. So you cover that, right? You done sustained airborne training for that period. Now the 05 just has to do the waiver. Because based on my past history, I absolutely believe, where is proficiency built?
On the ground.
On the ground. That's right, because that's why we put you to 2 weeks of training in towers and ground before we ever put you out of an aircraft, right? Because if it was true that proficiency was built in the air, day one of jump school, you'd be like, all right, get on the plane, right? We're going to teach you how to jump. That's not how it works. Proficiency, muscle memory, everything is built on the ground through repetition, right? Confidence is built in the air. So that's why we built that this way, is over the intent to ensure that most of these guys is going to be weather related. I really believe that. So you've already done your sustained airborne training and you're good to go. If not, get them out there on Red Falcon Field or whatever and say, right, jumpers, hit it, and just get them trained, all right? That's what it was intended to do. Operational waiver, January, February, March, all the way to December, jumps into January, the whole period. How long can that operational deployment waiver be for? Minimum. 1 month, right? Maximum.
However long they're
However
operating.
long the operation is. If it's 15 months, 24 months, we go back to that whole World War II style of deployments of you get your points, you get to come home type of thing, and you'll see you in 4 years, right? You could have to be covered for that entire period. All right? So here's the thing that I want you guys to understand too. Let's say a guy is pay loss before he goes on an operational deployment. And it's waived. The performance requirements are waived for that operational deployment. Is he entitled to pay while deployed? Yes or no? Raise a hand.
Yes.
Yes. Anybody else? Yes. Why?
Because the requirement is waived.
Because the requirement is waived. Because jump pay works that when you get a set of orders issued to you, jump pay starts, correct? Jump pay continually gets paid, all right, until we cut a set of orders that says you're no longer authorized to perform hazardous duty, correct? So I may be collecting, but I collect for months that I can't cover through performance. So that's why we always collect back. So I'll be collecting in August time frame. The money that I actually collect from you, even if it comes out of your August paycheck, is from when? Like January, right? That's where I'm collecting from. So when you actually are operationally deployed, I say you're not required to jump during this period. So even if you were in a pay loss status at that point in time, your pay still continues. Good to go? I want everybody to understand that. All right, anybody have any questions on this? Right here.
I just have a quick question. So if we have somebody who jumps, do they have to jump twice in September? So let's say we go through the April through September time period. If they jump twice in September, that would cover them for April through September. But if they jump once in September and then let's say they jump in October, so September and October, can that still cover them back through September? Or is that they lose out on April?
Well, again, so this is what I would do. Right? What I would do is waive April, May, and June. Right? And then I would use the next 2 jumps to cover, right, July, August, September, October, November. That's what I would do. Remember I said you gotta, don't use it to cover 1 month when I can use it to cover 3 months, and it just depends on where that other jump may have landed that may limit how many months that you can cover.
So I have a paratrooper that came from the 173rd. His hazardous duty orders were cut or stopped before he PCS and year. And then he got here in June. They started his hazardous duty orders again. And unfortunately, due to weather and everything, he wasn't able to jump until December. We've been trying to count it. Is his jumps to the 173rd transfer over?
Yep.
So we can use
In
those
fact,
to cover
they
June.
violated policy by terminating his orders when he departed.
Should have been transferred.
That's right. It's the incoming commander's job to terminate orders, not the outgoing commander. Because you don't know really where he's going and what slot. I mean, there's those rare cases that you know the guy is going to, so let's say recruiting. But could he end up in the sword?
Yep.
And he could end up jumping there, right? So again, he could even go to the first cav. He could go all over these places. Do they actually have detachments that jump in almost every division now?
Just about.
Yep. So you don't know where he's going, not your job to terminate his orders. Incoming commander's responsibility to terminate orders. So to me, that hazardous duty order that they did in Italy to cut it needs to be revoked, right? That way it doesn't mess with his pay over that leave period, right? And then you didn't attempt to cover him using those jumps from the 173rd. Yeah, even if a guy jumps in jump school, right? Comes to a non-airborne position here at Fort Bragg, right? 2 months later, he's now in an airborne position. Do those jumps at jump school count?
Absolutely.
Absolutely they do, right? Because they're still jumps. Because remember, you take any jump there, I don't care where it was performed, even USASOC, right? And it counts. USASOC.
Hey,
right?
so
They don't know jump.
what he just said is exactly what happened to me when I left that land that he thinks sucks. Used to suck, right? When I left there,
I
I
didn't
went to
say it.
sustainment for 60 days. Sustainment got the great idea to terminate my hazardous duty orders, which they should have transferred, right? I got here, I turned my hazardous duty orders back on. Instantly, I went to finance and said, hey, I didn't get paid these 3 months. They back paid me for all 3 months. They said that was erroneous, should never have happened. Because I didn't go 3 months without jumping, and I was more than current when I PCS'd here.
Going off your airborne statement, or airborne school statement, then, I know when I went to airborne school, they terminated my orders, and they only paid me a partial, because it's like 3% 5 jumps, not 3 months. And they terminated it, and I came here within a month.
Yeah, so jump pay, so when you left, if you came here within a month, right, it's all gonna be based on when you start and stop the jump pay, and that's based on orders, okay? So there are times that you will only get partial months because they did terminate your orders before you reported, right? So, but what it probably should have done is they shouldn't have terminated your order since you came right to the 82nd right afterward, right? You didn't go to like first Gav or anything, right? Or Corps or something like that. You came right to division, right? Yeah, they should have just cut your orders and you should continue to receive the pay. You shouldn't have had a break.
Sir, so I got a question about this. This is more of like a top-down fund kind of thing. I don't know if there's any finance people in here right now. But like Army finance.
One of the
I've
top
sent-
finance guys. There
Top
you go.
finance.
So yeah, they're here.
In the past 2 months, I've sent 4 soldiers to third group.
Right?
They've had to do an interpost transfer. I've sent them to finance, jump log transfer, went to another unit, got kicked back saying, nope, you must close their jump logs.
Same problem.
No, remember,
That-
closing a jump log is different from terminating a hazardous duty order. All terminating a jump log should do is say that you're done messing with it, somebody else needs to pick it up, right? That's all terminating, right, a jump log does. Terminating a hazardous duty order is a separate thing, right? Yours is a matter of clearing, this one's a matter of pay. Does that help you?
So from finance's perspective,
Yeah.
as far as like Department of the Army, Department of Defense, who is the approval authority again for hazardous duty orders? Like who's the lowest level?
It's the
rank?
orders issuing authority. So
Okay.
I know that sounds kind of vague, but whoever does strength management orders within that actual individual unit itself, whether it's battalion, whether it's brigade, what I'm not going to do is direct what a commander should do. If he has the authority to issue orders at his level, then he can issue those orders and place them on hazardous duty.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Any other questions? You over here?
So you say that we can, if they jump twice in 6 months, it'll cover them for 6 months. So if old boy jumped in January, then jumped in July, but didn't get a second jump till August, it'll still cover him from April to September?
So if he jumped in January and then jumped in what?
Jumped in July, but didn't get a second jump till August, that'll still cover him for that 6-month period?
Yeah, he could have jumped twice anytime between April and September, anywhere in there,
Okay.
and he's good to go.
So that no longer that jump, that month he jumped had to be covered? That rule's no longer in there?
No, it does, because we just said between April and September. He jumped in January, and he has to jump twice between April and September, any time in there twice,
Okay.
right? It has to be within the 6-month period or the 3-month period. You can't kind of leap back type of thing, over periods.
All right, sir.
That's what waivers are for, all right?
So, quick question. Guy jumps, just using the same scenario, guy jumps in January, guy jumps in April for April, May, June.
Right.
Jumps twice in July. Can he jump July to November, December, 6 months forward?
Yeah, so if a guy jumped in January, right, then he jumped into April, right? That's for what, April, May, and June, right?
Yep.
If this guy would have jumped twice in July, he's really covered for July, August, September, but if nobody manifested him, he was good for July, August, September, October, and November. He didn't need a waiver, okay? We good? No, I'm serious. We good over here? Right here? I see you counting. Right? Good, right? So January, February, March. He said, then he jumped in April, right? April, May, and June. That would have been that period. Then the guy jumped twice in July. He'd have been good through December if he wasn't manifested again. Right here.
So just using the same scenario, that April through September timeframe, say he didn't jump in July, but say he jumps 3 times in September, what happens to that third jump in
That
September?
third jump in September is something that gets added to his log. You can only jump twice in a month for pay. I've been working with OSD to say, well, why can't he jump? Why can't we say that it's September, October, November, right? They're unwilling right now. Give me time. Give me time. I'll wear them down. Right here.
This is less of a specific question about like everyone coming to the unit straight out of airborne school. You're saying those jumps count, so if someone comes through straight out of airborne school, they're covered for the first 6 months that they arrive.
Yeah, essentially first 5 months, because it would have been in a month. Generally speaking, they would have jumped it. Jump school. Right? So again, it's like you don't have to rush to get them out of an aircraft. Send them to another unit. And I'll tell you, this was another thing I used to hate when I was here in division was strap hanging. God, I hated strap hangers. Just loathed strap hangers. Anybody ever been on operation, jump in a strap hanger and lose his weapon? Say, okay, let's shut our stuff down because that dude from the 04, right, where'd he go? That guy from the 04 lost his rifle, right? Now we're out there looking for his rifle, that type of thing, right? So that was another way to kind of eliminate strap hanging. We're giving you more time to do something. Commanders can waive stuff. Right here.
I was actually piggybacking off the one you had right there about airborne school, because I used to work there as well, and the problem we had there was that when we closed their logs and then they left, we know we stopped their pay. But if they're already entitled to pay, here, I don't think has anybody actually been getting jumpers, brand new jumpers, back pay from when they went to airborne school? Because there's a full gap then, where I know
There shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. I mean, if the guy literally leaves airborne school, arrives here, and he puts on hazardous duty orders, right?
Is that something that works for you? Because I know that's a problem here. Like, until we cut our orders here, they will not get paid.
Yeah, see,
And
I
they will not
don't
get
see it
that
that way.
pay
You
back.
went from one jump position to another jump position. You
What-
should continue to receive pay. It
what
should
can
be
we do to
continuous.
push that
It's
up?
like if he would have went to first cav, absolutely, that makes sense. We stop his pay, right? But when he gets here, just turn it back on and give him the pay that he
But how do we
wants.
get them to back pay between here and airborne school? 'Cause usually a
Send
month
me
or
an
two-
email. I'll make sure that we start getting it fixed.
Can we make that like a policy?
Where you at?
Across the
Over
board?
here. All right.
So did the FMR change? Because I thought airborne school or military free fall, wherever, right? Any training environment, we didn't get paid.
No, training you do get paid. So if you're doing demo, you get paid during the period you do demo. You're doing
Because-
dive, you get paid during the period of dive.
When it stops, right? Like it actually gets terminated, and when you start up again, like those 5 jumps wouldn't count for.
No, those count. Those are jumps. Why wouldn't they count? Did you guys jump out of different planes?
Yes.
You did.
We jump from one state into the next.
Right. So I mean, and I try to be a little bit kind of kidding around by that. It's not like they're special planes with pink tails or training wheels on them or anything. I mean, same parachute, same everything, right? They count. No reason why they shouldn't count.
I think part of the reason that they stopped the jump pit at 507th is because you have so many 5 jumpers out there.
Oh no, I agree.
So I
But
mean,
again,
the majority
it's-
of those students won't ever go to an airborne unit because, oh, now they've got a permanent profile.
No, that's fine. And if they want to terminate their pay when they leave that installation, just make sure that when they get here, that pay is taken care of. 'Cause, I mean, the guy is becoming a paratrooper. I mean, let's not, jam him up in his first month on the job, right?
507 knows exactly he's going to the 82nd. They shouldn't, like, I've seen, like, it's just like a stamp. Like, they go through every single person in class, stand close lock, stand close lock, stand close lock. They don't
Yeah,
put it-
closing the log should not terminate pay. Now remember, that's it. To me, that's 2 different things in my mind. A closed log and termination of hazardous duty is 2 different things.
So is there a reason why you get a modified amount? Because I remember when I went to airborne school, my LES jump in was like Is that just because of?
It's partial month. Partial month. So if I start your pay on the 7th of the month, you are not entitled to 1 through 7. So, all right? That's why. That's the only reason that pay should be partial, is depending on when I start and stop your hazardous duty orders. If it's for a partial month, it's just for a partial month. All right? Anybody else on this one? We want to move on? So let's cut understanding 05 waivers. Right? So again, it's a waiver should be the last option. I always tell people it's a silver bullet. Don't use it unless you have to use it. Okay? Waivers only affect pay, they don't impact training proficiency requirements. So if you don't jump, what do you got to do? You've got some kind of training, and right? And my requirement for pay is sustained airborne training. But if for some reason you go over that 180 days, where are you going? You're going to bar, and that doesn't change because pay and that has nothing to do with each other. All right? Keep them separate. Waivers use a 12-month sliding window. So it says if a parachute was granted an 05 waiver performance in the previous 12 months, you're not eligible for an 05 waiver. Okay. So let's take a look at year 1. We just happened to start this thing in a January month, right? So this guy was good January, he jumped in April, he jumped in July, he's doing all right. But he didn't jump in October, November, December, only jumped once in January of the next year, right? Then comes April, he jumped again, but we still weren't able to cover October, November, December. I could have used this jump in January to cover January, November, and December, correct? But I didn't. I used it to go forward because that's probably the smart part to do, is try to maximize the waiver usage. So when did the waiver actually get signed in this case? I put a big yellow star right there to help you out. Right? Right here, between March at the end of March. That's where it gets signed. Why? Because if you would have jumped twice in March, what would have happened? I could have covered him for October, November, December, January, February, March, right? But that's pretty much the absolute last point in time right there that I couldn't cover that period of October, right? So I signed the waiver and covered him for that period, all right? Then I used that jump in January to go forward, then April's forward, right? Then, come October, November, December again, could I use a waiver then? Yep. Always look forward. Remember, the waiver I used here was for this period here. The waiver I used here was for this period here, right? If everything was in a perfect world and I told you you could only use one waiver during the month of January to December every year, that would be the rule. And if I told you that, could I use a waiver in December and a waiver in January? Yes, if I said you could only use one waiver from the months of January to December only, then you could absolutely use your waiver in December for the previous year and the waiver in January for the next year. It's kind of like, medical insurance. You got to, pay for eyeglasses someday when you guys get out and shit, right? You get one pair of glasses in a 12-month period, so you can get a pair of glasses in December and a pair of glasses when? January. All right? Same thing with waivers. Always look forward before you look back. All right? So in this case, the guy jumps February, April, September, doesn't jump again until May. Right? Now, I could use a waiver for October, November, December, January, February, March, right? I burnt the waiver forward. Now I burnt the waiver back. So now if this guy didn't jump for some reason in October, November, December, and needed another waiver, could I give him one? Nope, because he ran out of months here. It's usually about 9 months. So he wouldn't be eligible for a waiver here. Right? So then January, February, March, he could have got a waiver. Right? Then it's, May, April, same thing. Remember, always look forward first. to see if he's used a waiver before, out here in the back.
Can anything prior to January 2018 be used to the benefit of the jumper? Like
Nope.
say, for example, December 2017, he jumped twice.
Nope. We changed the policy in January, and I was able to get OSD to agree that January worked, but nothing in prior months before that. There was just ways that you could do waivers in January to cover periods before, because you now had a policy that allowed you to cover previous periods. All right? It's just based on when we had the policy approved. Good to go? Anybody else? Right here.
So just going back to year 2 on the top, so let's say in that the jumper jumped twice in April, so he'd already be covered April, May, June, July, August, September. Would he be able to jump in September at the end of that 6-month period and then cover over into October, November, December?
Nope, because that'd have been 3 months. Right? You have to, the jumps have to be in the period that they're covering. That's another thing I'm working on with OSD to understand. Because to me, I really believe if you jump the third time in like September, why not cover 2 months forward on that? Right? They're not comfortable. Right now they keep telling me, look, I gave you everything you wanted to start with. Now what, you're asking for more. So yeah, I am. But it's just going to take a little time. All right? I'll get there.